Hello Cancer, welcome in. Welcome to my channel, Wing Spiritual Clarity. My name's Wendy Rainey. I'm doing a psychic tarot reading for you, tuning in to the day's energies, seeing what divine messages of guidance come through for Cancers. Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus signs. Cross watchers are welcome. So, all right, Cancer, hope you're doing well. Okay. Take it. What's hidden from Cancer? What's hidden from Cancer? All right. Outcome and advice. Thank you. All right, let's turn these cards over. See what we're working with here. Oof. All right. Holy cat. Wow. Okay. What have we got, Cancer? We've got in the overall energy, we have the King of Cups in reverse, Temperance in reverse, Hanged Man in reverse, and the Five of Cups. All right, let's break it down. Let's start with the King of Cups in reverse. This is someone that hasn't met themselves, hasn't really explored their emotions. So this could be someone who seems, because they haven't explored emotions, either shallow or someone very watery, but they haven't learned how to process their emotions. So they're in their emotions. Let's see who we've got here. In their emotions. Okay. Okay, someone's, oh, yeah, burdened by these emotions. With 10 of Wands and 10 of Cups, it's a lot of emotions. And it feels like there's a lack of fire, a lack of solar plexus energy to kind of help burn through those emotions, to help give some fire. Feels like by being in this chronic, perpetual state of sorrow, sadness, it's affecting how they're seeing the lens they see their world through, is through all these unprocessed emotions. It feels like a lot, very watery energy, no fire. And it's blocking the way they're seeing. It's like creating a lens. Everything is through that sadness, unprocessed emotions. They're just hanging around this person's energy, and it's creating insecurity. This feels like someone very hopeless and helpless, just carrying around all these vulnerable emotions, seeing themselves, seeing their world through chronically. It feels like all right, yeah, Temperance reverse. This person feels like they can't alchemize their emotions. They don't understand how to sit with. These are my emotions, so I'm not going to push them away. I'm not going to tell a story. I'm not going to be stuck in a story from the past and stuck in those emotions. That's what this person feels like, very stuck in the past. I I recognize this energy and the messages that I've been giving, because I feel like this is me in my past. I've experienced something similar to this. And over time, the unprocessed emotions affects how you perceive yourself, your world around you, and it creates a lot of insecurities, kind of learned helplessness. What would help the viewer, whoever's watching, with this, anything? The King of Wands with his back turned kind of showed up as a challenge. That is fiery energy. Sagittarian energy is Temperance. Again, I'm getting a lack of fire, a lack of any kind of... Okay, so why someone might have a lack of fire, a lack of is chronic suppression of energies and emotions like anger, resentment, rage, that have that fire. I'm getting that a lot of you out there, whoever this message is for, feel that those emotions are bad because maybe you were raised in a home where, or around people that were out of control in those emotions, and so you just deemed those emotions bad, and I don't want to be that. However, those emotions, that rage, that resentment that's been suppressed, is the energy that you need to burn through your emotions, burn through the water. A lot of what I'm seeing is that when the fire comes back into the belly, into the solar plexus chakra, which is where your ribs meet, the moment you get any energy or power, it feels like you're if this is your reading, the moment you get that anger and that energy up to your solar plexus to burn through, it feels like you direct it to the past or to whoever in the current energy you feel is kind of to blame. And so what I'm seeing here is this way of operating is keeping you stuck. Instead of processing through it, it feels like then when you finally get a little anger or a little rage, you direct it at something that didn't go correctly in the past. It's not the best use of your time or of your energy is what I'm getting. So feels like what I'm getting, the message is here, is there's a need to take action, a need to do something differently. If you've been doing the same thing again and again and again, making the same choices, thinking the same thoughts, let's start there. Feeling the same thing, staying in the past, thinking the same thing over and over again, and demanding change. It kind of feels like that, instead of, well, you have to be the source of the change. You have to change, let go, think of something else. Think of anything else that makes you feel any relief, anything better. Are you focusing on something that creates grief? Why are... Only you can answer these questions, Cancer. Tell me more about this Temperance reversed energy. Temperance reversed. Clarified by Temperance reversed. Very out of balance, out of alignment. Impatient and repeating cycles. World reversed. Not changing anything. Feeling vulnerable. again, unprotected. But there's this energy here of I just want things to be different. But the change has got to come from inside. It starts with you. There's no one from the outside coming in to rescue you. This is taking your power back, lighting your fire, healing a story. Can you let go of a story that you've been telling so you can create space enough so you can create another version of yourself, so you can get yourself out of this stuck position? It feels like the story that you're telling about, it's like you can't, it's like your crown chakra is so full of the woes from your past. And so the more you focus on them, the more you're creating more of that. What you focus on grows. So what are you focusing on? What are you thinking about? What are you looking at? Do you want that to grow? Do you want that to be amplified? I'm also getting that there's this chronic focus on what hasn't worked, on the hurt. And there's very little here. It feels like that you focus on that you like about this world. And it's important to have appreciation, to have a foundation so you can train your focus. So that energy, you've got a lot of appreciation in your space. And so the more you focus on appreciation, the more things that are brought into your world and into your experience that you can appreciate. The more you focus on what you can't control, past hurts, then you create more of that. This reminds me of me years ago, just really stuck, unable to move the needle in a direction towards relief. So sure that the story I was telling myself all day, every day, I was just very stuck in a story. What helped is when I could finally process emotions, get in a correct environment. Personally, I needed to kind of separate myself, give myself space, time, temperance to heal, to process through. And it takes as long as it takes. And it was a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of healing, a little bit of taking action towards the version of me I say I prefer to be. There's a need to take action in a new direction, to get out of all this watery energy, to process through so you've got the wisdom on the other side and the healing. Everything that you want is on the other side of processing through these emotions, sitting with them, getting curious. What am I feeling? What's the mixture of watery feelings? Disappointment's the first thing that hits. So instead of I feel bad, because when I first started sitting with my emotions, owning my own emotions instead of trying to pawn them off. I also would just tell anyone who would listen my sad stories. Telling on myself. I love that version of me. I understand that version of me was really hurting and in pain and doing the best that she could. So I have a great deal of compassion and grace for that version of me. And I realized change comes from within, and how empowering that is. So once I started learning, getting curious about my emotions, then instead of it's just bad emotions. Okay, well, what's so bad about it? Describe, get curious, become an emotional sommelier. This is a wonderful emotion. I would say I found this emotion in my toddler years. A little disappointment mixed with resentment and shame. Shame, and that I was bad if I had those emotions. So when you bring something from the unconscious into the light of your consciousness, freedom, healing can happen. All right. Moving on, Cancer, to what's hidden. We have the Ace of Cups in reverse and the World reversed. Looks like you were cycling, not ending cycles, not growing, not expanding, but repeating cycles in a very unloving environment. Feels like you might have been raised, Cancer, to center others in your experience, to parent your parents. Some of you, the way you were raised in your family of origin, it doesn't feel like it was loving. It is void of love. No matter what they said, this is love. This is love, Cancer. Why can't you act? That doesn't sound like love. Or maybe you got you've got food and shelter. Why are you, but there's just a lack of care here, foundationally. And that might have set your nervous system up for not maturing emotionally. It doesn't look like your parents knew, and I'm not here to blame either, but just bringing the information forward that this doesn't look loving. So if you were raised in an environment with emotionally immature people who said, this is what love is, and that's not love, then it might have made you susceptible for friendships and relationships that were also not loving. But it felt familiar to your nervous system. All right, anything else that would help Cancer in what's hidden? So, with the Devil energy coming out, it feels like you might have been raised in a toxic environment growing up. More about codependency, dependency, toxic environment. This isn't about growth, expansion, care, love. This is about owning obsessive energies, manipulation, deception. What would help Cancer in what's hidden? What would... See that little Knight of Cups coming out. Okay, in a toxic environment, you might have, as a child, created some maladaptive strategies to survive in a toxic family of origin. You might have disassociated, created fantasy versions, kind of idealizing a fantasy somewhere you can escape. Wow, Fool card reverse, Nine of Swords reverse, Seven of Wands. It looks like to not repeat this cycle, you have to get out of a comfort zone. You have to get out of what feels familiar and face your fears. Ooh, it's tough. It's tough to face your fears. Seven of Wands, standing your ground, creating healthy boundaries, getting out of a comfort zone, creating healthy boundaries. Those sound really good. All right. It feels like, I'm trying to see, it feels like some of you are already on the other side of this, have already cleared this energy. And there's a need to take action. Towards what excites you. What are you excited about? After this watery energy. Okay, when I was in this type of energy, a lot of watery emotions, it was hard to be inspired. It was hard to even imagine being inspired. And so the closest energy that I had access to when my vibration was so muted and so hard to attune to was curiosity. What am I curious about? What do I want to learn about? What am I interested in? What do I want to learn more about? And I started following that spark. That spark of relief. At first it feels like relief, and just keep following that spark. What makes you happy? What makes you curious? Happy feels difficult to reach. When I was this watery, it was hard to reach happiness. What does that mean? So taking action. You're in control of your life, right? You are the creator of your reality. So taking action towards Six of Swords, Sun, moving on to calmer grounds. Happiness. So for a lot of you, it feels like you might be in an environment that's not conducive to your well-being. What would? What excites you? How can you reimagine yourself in your life and create something interesting for yourself? Go towards whatever makes you feel happier. It feels like this is talking about once you leave a toxic environment, your nervous system can finally relax. For some of you, it feels like maybe a lot of your life has been in fawning, putting others first, because that's how you were raised, to have no needs of your own and put everybody first, to be the giving tree, over-giving constantly. When you say no and stand up for yourself, I can't give anymore, that type of energy, then it feels like there's some of you that are dependent on your ability to give as you attract takers. If you want reciprocity, you have to practice reciprocity from the get-go. I wrote this down a few days ago and found this note, and it feels timely to read it here. Obsessively meeting other people's needs while chronically ignoring your own unmet needs leads to resentment, hurt, woundedness, and feeling victim martyr to the people or person you helped. There's shame, huge shame for having needs. There's also burnout. Shame, yet still your needs are unmet. Any ounce of energy you still have in a toxic environment, you give to others. So you're chronically depleted, isolated, physical symptoms of maybe chronic conditions and insomnia. So that might resonate for some of you. All right, Cancer, let's look at the outcome and advice. Two of Wands is my card for reimagining your life. With that, what are you passionate about? What are you excited about? What are you curious about? Following those threads. And it doesn't have to lead to, so sometimes when I follow my excitement and just trust or my curiosity, then it leads to something that leads to where my life is. I was curious 11 years ago about psychic school. I was bedbound, very unwell, definitely physically unwell, stuck. I felt very stuck, like I had manifested myself into a corner and I couldn't figure out how to get out of that corner, out of that stuckness. And I thought, well, I have nothing going on. What has the slightest bit of curiosity? Psychic classes. I've always been curious. I've had some interesting experiences in my life. Why not? And then once I started classes, I was so excited. It felt so good. So I just kept following that spark. So that did lead to, I had no idea when I was starting that it would lead here, that I'd be here 11 years later. There are other sparks that I follow that has nothing to do with my job, with my life, but it, like this morning, I wasn't planning on going for a trail run, but it just felt really good. And I got the idea, it's nice and cloudy today, so it won't be so hot. And let's go for a trail run, even though it's usually a day that I don't run or exercise. And out there, Chuck and I, my dog and I went, and we met the best people. We ran into, on the trail, the best like dogs and people out there. Chuck got like 5 different little mini play dates because the dogs were so perfectly aligned and matched. So I followed my spark and I was like, yeah, it has nothing to, is that going to affect the rest of my life? Yes, no, probably not really, but it really affected my day so far. And I'm just so glad that I went out there and I followed my excitement. There's also reimagining. When you're processing through all this grief and sorrow, there's also reimagining your life. Not looking in your rear view as much as focusing on moving forward. New you. It feels uncomfortable because it's new energies, new territory. But once I started facing my fears, then I grew confidence. Then I understood what I'm capable of. All right. Anything else that Cancer would be helpful for Cancer to know? That feels complete. Just as I say that, the cards start popping up. That feels complete, though. So I'm going to end the reading here, Cancer. I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all your likes and comments. It's such a pleasure to co-create these readings with you. So hope it was helpful. Take care.